All right, for those of you who are wondering how I memorize the unit circle, I do not like gimmicky memorizations that don't make mathematical sense. So you are welcome to look up anything you want online and memorize it however makes sense to you, but this is how I think through the unit circle. So it doesn't really matter if you mark your radian measurements and degree measurements first or your x and y coordinates, but I'll go ahead and do the radians first. So if that's the only part you're curious about, you can know that. So what I look at first is I think of the top part of the circle being a whole unit. This is from 0 to 1. So 0 pi to 1 pi. And so that would mean that this part right here is half, because that is half of that portion. Oh, let that be the fraction. And so we've got 0, 1 half, 2 halves, 3 halves, and then 4 halves, and 4 halves is 2, right? And then if this is 1 half and I divide it in half again, that's 1/4. So then I count by fourths. So this is 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, 5/4, 6/4, which is 3 halves, 7/4, and then 8/4, which is 2. All right, after that, then I look at the other sections. So I'm not going to count the fourths, but I'm still going to count the halves. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that means that these pieces right here go by 1/6 at a time. So I have 1/6, 2/6, which is 1/3, 3/6, 4/6, 5/6, 6/6, 7/6, 8/6, which is 4/3, 9/6, 10/6, 11/6, and then 12/6. So then when I'm like doing something where I'm evaluating a trig function and I don't have the unit circle in front of me, I just remember that the 1/6 and the 5/6, a little bit more than 1, a little bit less than 1, or sorry, a little bit more than 0, a little bit less than 1. And then the 7/6 and the 11/6 would be a little bit more than 1, a little bit less than 2. So I remember kind of like the size of those. Similar with the 1/3, I remember that 1/3 is like closer to 1 half, 2/3 is a little bit more than 1 half. 4/3 is a little bit less than 3 halves, 5/3 is a little bit more. So I kind of remember these things by the size. And then the fourths, I think, are a little bit easier because they're like right in the middle. Okay. For degree measures, I never really struggled with those, but if you do, just remember that these sections are 30 degrees and that this one would be like halfway in between. So you can do 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180, 210, 240, 270, 300, 330, 360, and then you could say like halfway between 0 and 90 or halfway between 30 and 60. So 45, 135, 215, nope, 225, just kidding. And 315, okay. And then to be able to do the x and the y coordinates, I just remember that the radius of a unit circle is a length of 1. That's why it's called a unit circle, because its radius is considered to be 1 unit. So this is right 1 up 0. This is to the right or left 0 but up 1. This is to the left 1 up 0. And then this is left or right nothing, and then down 1. Okay, So now I know that the fractions that I fill in the unit circle with are 1/2 root 2 over 2 and root 3 over 2. And if I compare the decimals, 1/2 is the same as root 1 over 2. So root 1 over 2, root 2 over 2, root 3 over 2, 1 is smaller than 2 is smaller than 3. So if you're taking the square root of 1 and dividing it in half, taking the square root of 2 and dividing it in half, taking the square root of 3 and dividing it in half, this is the smallest number, this is the biggest number. So now what I do is I think about how to get to this point. I go to the right a lot and I go up a little bit. So that means I go to the right, the biggest number, and I go up the smallest number. So right a lot, up a little bit is root 3 over 2, 1/2. This one is right a little bit, up a lot. So I go to the right a little bit, up a lot. And then this is to the right a medium amount, up a medium amount. It's the same. And so these are the root 2's over 2. That's how I memorize it. And what that does for me is it makes it a little bit easier when I don't have the unit circle in front of me to be able to picture what answer I'm looking for. So if somebody said I'm evaluating sine of 5 pi 6, what I would do is I would say, okay, sine of 5 pi 6, that's over here because it's a sixth. It's a little bit less than 1. That's how I know it's over here. And then when I picture this dot, I think, oh, that's left a lot, up a little bit. So the x-coordinate is negative root 3 over 2. The y-coordinate is 1/2. So that's how I work with the unit circle to fill it out, but then also so I'm comfortable using it when I don't have it right in front of me. So just for those of us who need like the reassurance, let's go ahead and figure out the rest of this. If you feel comfortable, feel free to stop the video. So for this one, I'm going to go left a little bit, up a lot. So left 1/2, up root 3 over 2. For this one, I'm going to go left a lot, up a little bit. So negative root 3 over 2, 1/2. And then for the one in the middle, I go left and up the same. So negative root 2 over 2, root 2 over 2. All right, left a lot, down a little bit. Left a little bit, down a lot. And then left and down the same amount. Right a little bit, down a lot. Right a lot, down a little bit. And then right and down the same amount.